Hello, everybody, and welcome to Champagne Sundays with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Well, today's show is all about a toast to books and music, all that totally rocks. We're very excited to have Brad Parks join us. He's a critically acclaimed and award-winning author of Say Nothing, and his second, just his standalone thriller, Closer Than You Know, is out March 6th. And Nancy spent a couple sleepless nights reading it. Now I'm in the middle of sleeplessness, and it's just it's a badass good book, and it will make you freak out a little bit.
Yeah, when you think things are going bad for you, just pick that book up.
No, I know, but it's really good. It opens our eyes to what happened to children in the foster care system, or just even in a household where they're not treated very well. So, and just basically what happens in government institutions in general, right?
The system.
That's it. That's the word. The system. Okay, so there's always some positives in there, but anyway, looking forward to having him on the show. He's really an excellent writer, and he's been doing it for a long time. I believe a professional since he was a teenager.
Wow.
I know. Don't mess around.
Okay, I won't.
Okay. Now, another guy who's not messing around is John Magnusson. He's out of Stockholm, Sweden. He is an incredible singer-songwriter. He's an independent musician, and he's like a force fire of independence, of getting musicians out there and to spread their music out there, and he promotes other musicians. You know, he's really active in just working it, man. And his music is good. It's good stuff. Good storylines, really good messaging, and a little bit of punk with a little bit of folk, I would say. Really good stuff. And his latest EP is out. It's called Always a Rebel.
There you go.
Yeah, and that follows up from his other EP, Psalms for Sinners. So there, you see what's going on here.
You've got to shake up the system.
Yeah, so it's really good to have him back on the show. We like playing his music on our shows. Also, very excited to have Andy Powell join us. He is a guitarist and songwriter and founder of the legendary rock group Wishbone Ash. And they've re-released a couple albums. They have Twin Barrels Burning from 1982, Raw to the Bone from 1985. And they have their vintage 30 CD set coming out in April,
30.
celebrating 50 years of rock.
Wow.
They'll be here in the States in April touring. Right now they're touring Europe. They've got like gigs in Poland and Germany and all over the place.
Cool.
So very excited to have him on the show, and it's such good music. It's just really the best. And they do rock where they go into all different influences and genres, so it's not just, one style.
Nice.
So it's really good. So excited to have them on. Happy Oscar Sunday, everybody. It's March 4th, 2018. It is National Grammar Day, and that's why we have Brad Parks on the show to make sure we keep our grammar correct. Also, it's Pound Cake Day. So if you don't like who's, being nominated for an Oscar, eat pound cake, I suppose.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people eating cake.
That's why these shows are there.
Mm-hmm.
You're listening to Big Blend Radio Champagne Sunday Show. We're streaming live from Tucson, Arizona, and we're your hosts, Nancy Reed and Lisa Smith, the crazy mother-daughter travel team and publishers of two digital interactive publications. We have Big Blend Radio and TV Magazine, our variety publication, and the spring issue went out last week, Wednesday, so check it out at blendradioandtv.com. And we also have Parks and Travel Magazine that covers parks, public lands, and travel destinations, and the spring issue for that is out as well, and you can get that at nationalparktraveling.com. But now it's time for our champagne toast. It's our tradition of just celebrating the good stuff in life, and every Sunday we raise a glass of bubbly. Sometimes it's tea, sometimes I don't know. It might be a little stronger later in the afternoon, but the thing is to take a moment and just celebrate the good stuff. So, Nancy, what are you toasting to?
I think I'm going to toast to this quote. Walking is man's best friend. I thought it was going to be a dog, but it's walking, and I think it's interesting. That came from the father of medicine, Hippocrates, around about 350 years before Christ. That's how long ago people figured out that walking was healthy. Think about that. And now we're coming right back to, and doctors and heart specialists and everybody is saying, man, you got to get out there and walk.
Yeah.
Look how long it took us to figure that one out.
I have to walk. Otherwise, I'm a crabby person. And then, that's my meditative, creative moment.
But Hippocrates was the first one to figure out that sickness was caused by diet, environmental factors, lifestyle, and not
moving
the devil.
Wow, this is a good Sunday show.
I know.
Perfect.
If we had separation of religion and health.
So on that, I'm going to tell everyone, go to our 1 Hour Walk Facebook group and join us and share your 1 Hour walks, because we're on a mission with that. And something very, very cool is up our little sleeveys in regards to 1 Hour walks. It's pretty darn big what's about to be announced. And we're getting there.
Happening.
Yep, something is being brewed on this side, and it all starts with a 1 Hour walk, and then it continues on. So very cool. I love that quote. I love that. I am toasting to Kings Canyon National Park. It's its birthday today. It was established March 4th, 1940. It's actually one of our first parks. It incorporates land that was initially protected as General Grant National Park, and it was established to ensure the permanent preservation of wilderness characters. This was 25 years before the passing of the Wilderness Act, and it's really true when you go to Kings Canyon, this one area, that's it, no cars, no nothing, but your 2 feet can go in there, and it is pristine goodness. We saw a friend's DVD of their trip back in the 70s, and we've been there a number of times filming and doing our park tours, and there's no difference. You know what I mean? It's when it's protected and preserved, and the ecosystems are flourishing. So,
it's healthy.
Over 461,000 acres are protected. Most of it is wilderness. There's forests. There's canyons. There's waterfalls. It's actually Kings Canyon is one of the deepest canyons in the country. So check that out. It's also home to the General Grant tree, which is known as the nation's Christmas tree. It's actually declared by legislature as the nation's Christmas tree. That happened in 1926, so pre-national park. Isn't that amazing? And it's also a national shrine in the memory of the men and women of the armed forces. So I toast to Kings Canyon and to protecting our wilderness areas and getting out there and taking a 1 hour walk. 2 really cool ones out there, Zumwalt Meadow. Check that out at nationalparktraveling.com. Just type in 1 hour walk, you'll see it. Another one is the General Grant tree. If you want to go see that tree, beautiful 1 hour walk that will take you through and show you some of the history of the people living in the park and working in the park, and also the Centennial Stump is there. And everybody needs to go see the Centennial Stump.
Let me not say anything.
I know. All right. I think it's time to get this show started. We have some incredible guests joining us, so stay tuned. We're going to talk about Brad Park's new book. It's very exciting, and we're excited to have him join us. Well, Brad Parks is a critically acclaimed and award-winning author of Say Nothing and a whole bunch of other books, too. And he's also the only author to have won the Seamus, Nero, and Lefty Awards, 3 of crime fiction's most prestigious prizes. We're happy to have him join us on Big Blend Radio's Champagne Sunday show today to discuss his second riveting thriller. It's called Closer Than You Know. Right there, that title just tells you that. And it comes out March 6, 2018, so everybody get your champagne ready. It is definitely a must-read, especially for fans of domestic suspense. And I didn't even know there was such a category as domestic suspense, but there is. And once you start reading it, you're like, dude, that really is closer than you know and too close for home sometimes. So really? I know. Welcome, Brad. How are you?
Hey, Lisa. Hey, Nancy. How are you guys?
We're good.
We're doing good. We're excited to have you on the show. As we were saying earlier, you're one of those authors that make us stay awake really into the wee hours of the morning, and then you start looking at everybody you know and start thinking, so what haven't they told us?
So in other words, not only am I causing sleep deprivation, I'm causing paranoia.
Yeah,
I like
that.
Actually,
That's
I'm
cool.
going to take that.
Okay, good. You know, this is really interesting to me before we get to the book, your journey as an author. And the reality about why we're staying up late reading your book is, number one, it's excellent stories, and it's, keeps you on the edge of your seat. And also, it's like, damn, dude, when you're reading this, But things flow really fast, and you're right in it when you're reading. Does it come from your background of being in the news world and writing in newspapers?
Well, I think absolutely. I was a newspaper reporter for 20 years before I turned to this novel writing thing, and this may get a little too scatological here at the top of the show, but I think you guys can handle this. For many years, I had a toilet next to the computer that I wrote on. And the reason for this is a little gross, admittedly, but in an old-fashioned newspaper, you start with the part of the story that's on the cover, and then you got to go to the jump to read the next of it. And I was a sports writer. Most of the time, it's people kind of reading when they're doing other things, if you know what I mean. And it's a little bit difficult to get them to actually want to turn to the jump. And so my goal was always, can I get them to turn to the jump? Can I hook them in that first 200 words or so? And that's really still what I try to do as a fiction author. I'm trying to hook you right away as fast as possible and suck you into the story as much as I can.
Well, you do a really good job.
I know. Now, Closer Than You Know, it's not tied into your other books, right?
No, it is a standalone.
Okay, but now I need to go back. I need to go start reading backwards, which I'm good at.
So you're going to read the Hebrew edition, is what you're saying. Okay, good luck with that.
Yeah, why not? Well, I know your books are published in other countries. Isn't that what happened with Say Nothing? That ended up in different countries.
Yeah, it got translated into 12 languages, which is really impressive because I had English teachers as a kid who would tell you I couldn't even write in English. So it's been really heartening to see what's happened.
Well, that's interesting. So, I mean, when you were in school because didn't you start at a very young age, 14?
Yeah,
And then did what you were learning and writing for newspapers at that time, what were your teachers saying versus what you were actually getting paid to do?
Well, so I might have been that kid in the back of the class who wasn't necessarily paying all that careful attention, Lisa. When you mentioned earlier that it is both National Grammar Day and National Pound Cake Day, I am personally going to celebrate National Pound Cake Day.
I'm
because
with you.
The grammar thing in me, we weren't always seeing eye to eye when in the 8th grade when they're diagramming sentences. I was probably the kid staring out the window dreaming up of, some story that was only in my head and had nothing to do with what the teacher was doing at the blackboard. But no, I started writing. Really the thing that hooked me on writing was not the writing itself. It was actually being read that I realized I enjoyed because I was covering sports for my little local hometown paper, and I would write some dreadful story. I mean, I was not a good writer starting out. So, I would be covering girls basketball, and I would say something like, the Darien High School girls basketball team were like guppies coming into a shark tank when they played the Ridgefield Tigers on Friday night, or something like that. I mean, really high-level award-winning stuff. And then the parents who were reading these articles about their daughters would go, "Hey, Brad, guppies in a shark tank. That's good stuff, man." And, when you're 14 years old, you're like, oh, my God, I have developed a readership. And so I got hooked on really telling stories and on kind of moving people through words. And that's really all I've ever tried to do since then.
There is something to be said for that, and I know that having lived in different countries and lived in a lot of British colonial places, when you come back to the States, you realize how Americans don't really care as much about grammar as the British do. And you find, and then you read a British novel and you're like, well, okay, how come you don't write like you talk? Because they get really into grammar.
Right.
And then over here, we don't really care.
Well, I always think that write a book the way you tell a story around a campfire. And you're probably not going to get all that concerned about exactly how you're wording things. I mean, I think there's, some of the great storytelling traditions out there are oral traditions, and there's a reason for that. Everybody loves to be around the campfire and hear a story. So I think that's always kind of been my organizing principle, and therefore you'll notice my sentences are not going to be too overly complex. And I mean that's part of having been a newspaper reporter too. But it's really, I want the story to matter more than the words.
Well, let's go to Closer Than You Know, because you've got Melanie Barrick. She's your main lady, and you're, writing with a woman's perspective there. How does that feel? Especially as a mommy.
It was a little intimidating. I have 43 years of experience being a guy, not much experience being a woman, I have to admit. But as I thought about this story, so the story, for those of your listeners who don't know, is this young mother, Melanie Barrick. She comes home from work one day to pick up her infant son from childcare. He has been taken away by social services, and no one will tell her why. So it's this nightmare scenario right off the bat. And I think as I thought about this book of a parent whose child is taken away by social services, they're being framed by someone, they don't know what's going on. That story was just going to be more compelling from the female perspective, period. The mother is simply, especially the mother of a nursing child, I mean, that's a special bond. I saw it with my wife and my own kids, sorry to all you dads out there, and I was a stay-at-home dad, but there's a special level to that bond between a mother and a child. And so I was going to really have to tell this thing through the women's perspective. And so I was kind of intimidated, and then I got into the story, and the really remarkable thing was the gender thing disappeared really quickly. Because in any given scene I was writing, what mattered was not the gender of the character. It was, okay, what does this person want? What does this person need? How are they going to get it? What's standing in their way? Kind of the same questions I'd always asked about my male characters. And it quickly came to remind me of a bumper sticker a friend of mine has that I really like. It says, "Feminism is the radical notion that women are people." And that's really how I decided to treat this female protagonist, not as a female protagonist, but as a human protagonist who happens to be female. And so really the gender thing really disappeared for me really pretty quickly. The one thing, and I know, forgive me for rambling, but this was just sort of funny. The one thing I did to kind of, I hate to say it, pander to the female audience, right, was, okay, I have this young mother. She's nursing. She is trying to keep her milk up so that she can continue nursing this child when the child is returned to her. And so I have all these kind of references to, it's deeply uncomfortable when, your breasts are getting hard, you don't have a baby to let out the pressure, all this kind of stuff. So my agent was the first person to read it. She's a mother of two children, and she's like, yeah, this is a good book, but too many references to breastfeeding. So I cut out some of the references. And then my editor read it, and she's a mother of two children. And she's like, yeah, great book, too much breastfeeding. So I took some more out. And then my publisher read it, and she's a woman, and she's like, why is there so much breastfeeding in this book? So I took some more out. And then the sales director, also a woman, read it, and it was like, what's with the breastfeeding? So by the time it was all said and done, I think there were maybe 4 references to breastfeeding left in it. So much for my efforts to connect with the female readership.
Wow, how much breastfeeding did you have in there?
Apparently a little too much.
well, when there's a part in there where she's got all this milk and now her baby's gone, and she's like, oh no, now I got to let the milk out, and she hasn't, she's still got to get to her husband, and all of this stuff has happened. Her house is torn apart, and all of this stuff is going on with her, and yet now she has to play with the breast milk, and it's like, that's an intimate thing, that brings you into a different part of, here's this chaos, and it's bringing up all of her past, being a child. And I think that is a huge part of it, is to have your baby taken away, not know what's going on, but it really goes how you connect that to her past of, bouncing around from foster home to foster home and then suddenly going back home, which wasn't pleasant or good at all. That brings up a whole bunch.
Yeah, well, and that was actually kind of a little bit of serendipity of I knew I wanted to be writing this book set in the world of foster care, and I was coming home from work one day, and we had this babysitter there, and I overheard my daughter asking her, do you have any brothers and sisters? And this babysitter said, oh, yes, I've had 20 or 30. And, you kind of hear the record scratch at that point. You're like, what's going on here? It turns out she had grown up in foster care. And that's when the light bulb turned on for me. Oh, my goodness, I'm going to have this this woman plunged into this nightmare in the system. And Nancy, it was perfect at the top of the show when you talked about the system, because that's how everybody refers to it. And who better to know the nightmare of the system than someone who had grown up in it? So at that point, I actually interviewed my babysitter to talk to her about her experiences, and then I read, 3 or 4 or 5 memoirs about the foster care system, and kind of, you stir them all together in that authorly way. But yeah, I think that really brought things home for Melanie Barrick, and because the nightmare is just right in front of her. My baby has been taken away by the system. I know better than anybody how really, truly tough the system can be on a child.
The words "the system." I grew up in the welfare system. My father was disabled, and we had social workers that visited our house once a month, supposedly. Interesting enough, and all I ever heard as a kid growing up is the system, the system. Then I like the first couple pages of your book, the system, and I got this like, oh God, this like cold, freezing hand. I'm like, not again. No, go away, because I've always thought the system's really interesting, because a system is something put in place so things will work, and it's totally the opposite.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the word system means anymore.
Yeah, I will. I'll actually quote from my book, if you don't mind. This is page 15 from Closer Than You Know. Once you were in the system, there was no easy way out. Its collective machinery acted like a giant steel maw, trapping you between its sharpened incisors, tearing another chunk out of you every time you jerked or squirmed.
Yep.
That, to me, is the nature of the system.
Yep.
Man, but I think it's so important that people understand that, and just even understanding, you've got all the political stuff going on too, and just the whole thing of what happens with trying to, track a criminal, and there's all of these things happening all at the same time, and you start to really look at the system and go, how protected are we? No, because at the same time, some things are really good, and then there's human interest that gets involved, which sometimes is a good thing, and sometimes is the egotistical human interest we see in politics every day.
Right. One of the things, if I may praise myself, that I really liked about this novel, though, is, okay, so we sort of set up social services as being the bad guy here, right? Because they have come in and taken away this child. And yet, you can read this novel from a completely different perspective, and that is, and I talked to social workers for research of the book, and I would hope, and I think, a social worker will read this novel, and everything that happens, they would say, yes, that is what I have to do, because this book is told from the perspective of the mother, but the social worker is concerned about the child.
Yeah,
and in this case, they are protecting the best interest of the child, and that absolutely justifies everything that is done in this novel. And and that's the kind of novel I love, where the bad guy is actually not truly the bad guy. They are doing exactly what we pay our social workers to do, which is protect children, and especially when they are presented with, and this gets a little deeper into the novel that again your listeners haven't read yet, but when they are presented with a credible tip that the mother has been dealing drugs. Well, they have to investigate that. And then they're given another tip that the mother is trying to sell her baby on the black market. Well, now they have no choice but to act. And that's what sets the system into motion in this book. And so, again, any social worker will read this and go, yep, that's exactly what you have to do.
And, and I get
and it's the hard part for everybody.
Right,
but there's a loss of humanity sometimes, I think, because every social worker is different and handles things in a different way, even though they have to do exactly the same thing. Some are the type who will just walk in, pull the kid, and not care if the kid screams. Others will be a little gentler. Some care what the parents are going through. Some don't. I know from so many visits of social workers that you had your favorite ones. And then you had like, oh no, not that one. Because, oh no.
Yeah, there's a line in this book from Melanie Barrick about how she had a 5-second test for social workers, and that she could generally tell within 5 seconds whether the social worker was one of the good ones or was one of the ones just there to punch the clock. And she has a line in there about how one of the social workers she bumped across fails the 5-second test after 2 seconds.
Yeah, well, we used to watch them get out of their car.
Oh, yeah.
We'd go upstairs, watch them get out of the car, and we knew by the way they got out of the car and slammed the door.
Right.
We're like, uh-oh. Yeah.
Yeah. But, look, that is again, to bring that I do have some sympathy for the folks on the other side. That is a tough job, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you are overworked, you are underpaid, you
Exactly.
have a very limited set of circumstances and of things that you can actually do for a child. Yep. And by the way, there's a judge behind you the whole time, and there's the rest of the social service system behind you, kind of looking over your shoulder and ready to second guess everything you do. And if God forbid it is that 1 in 1,000, 1 in 100,000 case where there really is some nightmare scenario going on, you have to act. I mean, and you will, you're more likely to lose your job for not acting than you are for acting. And that's every social worker knows that. So, they're in a tough spot too.
Yeah, but there's a downward spiral that can happen when you're locked in the system.
Right,
right. And it's really hard to get out. And and you got that in the book really, really well. And that's to me, social workers need way more help than they get, and they also need way more training.
Yeah.
Than what they probably get.
Well, and there's a lot of situations that present themselves that, frankly, you couldn't train a human being for. That we really rely on them making judgment calls. And this is, again, where I do have a great deal of sympathy for the social worker is, when a judge in a courtroom has to make a decision, they have time to ponder it. They have time to look at precedents. They have time to research. Man, a social worker is making those kind of judgments snap, bang, 5 seconds. You've got to make that call. And, man, they are not easy calls to make. And so I do have, for as much as I make the social worker the bad guy in large parts of this novel, I do have a great deal of sympathy for them.
It's really not the social worker, it's the system.
Right. It goes back to the system.
Well, I think it's also a very dangerous career.
It is.
It's dangerous for everybody. It's just like, domestic violence and those cases that, the police have to go to, or anybody around it. Anything can happen at any time. And I think that's what's so volatile about these kinds of stories you're reading, and it and the fact is it's very real and very true. There's a case right now out in 29 Palms, California, near Joshua Tree National Park. You saw that, right? And,
sure.
And everybody, it blew up everywhere that these kids were, like the underground kids and being held. And as soon as I was reading your book, I'm like, dude. But they were turned out that the parents were, poor. And I mean, it's cold out there at night. I know about high desert winters. They are freezing cold. And these kids are out there in the middle of the desert, and I know about in the summer, I know about the bugs and the snakes. It's mean, but at the same time, this is a predicament that families are in these days. We've done so many shows on homelessness, and at one point, the average age of a homeless person in this country, and it's not just, everyone thinking, oh, so-and-so is an alcoholic or a drug addict or come back from war. He's 9 years old. And it's scary. And then because of the system, maybe they're out in that kind of thing, like what's going on in the desert, or they've luckily found them, or they run from the system. The kids totally flat out bail. And I don't blame them.
and that is why Melanie Barrick, the protagonist of Closer Than You Know, is abandoned by her parents when she was 9 years old.
Just boom. That's got to be heartbreaking too. I mean, there's just so much. And how do you move forward with that?
Right.
And that's another theme in your book too. And I think that's great about Melanie was she was like, okay, all this, negative stuff, hurtful stuff happened in my life. Now I'm making a difference, and her child was her world. I mean, wanting her home, and I want this stability. That was such a huge deal for her. And so when that just immediately got swiped away, and so fast, because she's a new mom.
Right.
That was
I think I connect more emotionally with Melanie Barrick than any protagonist I've ever written. And one of the reasons that I really just came to like her a lot, I mean, she's smart, she's strong-willed, she is self-reliant, but really it is that resilience of, before the book even begins, look, she was abandoned by her parents when she was 9 years old. She bounced from foster care to group home to foster care to group home, and yet she came out of it normal, and that was really based on my kid's babysitter. Up until my kid's babysitter said, "Oh, I've had 20 or 30 brothers and sisters," I had no idea she had been raised in foster care. Mm-hmm. She was just a local college student that I had found. She seemed to have a good head on her shoulders. She was, bright, and she was punctual, and she loved the kids, and she was great. And so, I had no idea of her backstory. And anybody meeting Melanie Barrick would feel the same way. She is this young woman with her life completely together, despite all of these things that have happened to her. So, and I did. I don't know if it makes me seem like less of a bad guy, but I really did feel guilty about all of the terrible things I do to her in this novel. I want you guys
really
to know that.
I had to put a space between her and reading it and me because, every morning, you wouldn't believe what happened to her now.
Yeah, I was like, man, let up on her.
Yeah, I know. Believe me, when I was coming home from writing this novel, I would talk to my wife and I'd be like, "You have no idea what I did today. I feel terrible." But because I have her accused of dealing drugs. I have her, she assaults a police officer by accident, so she gets thrown in jail. I don't want to ruin too much of the novel, but I think actually the low point was she had to get a job if she was going to get her kid back. Oh, because by the way, I'd gotten her fired from her first job, and so I made her work at Waffle House. I think that was really truly because I don't. Do they have a lot of Waffle Houses out in Arizona? That might be more.
No, but actually here in Tucson we have one. And listen, Waffle Houses. We used to live in Florida. Listen, they're an institution. They are an important part of the culture. Because you can have them smothered, covered. You can, there's a thing about road trips and Waffle House go hand in hand, and I would be a spokesperson for Waffle House if I could.
Yes, it is an important part of the social fabric. However, you don't want to be part of working. Those poor people get paid $2.13 an hour, and that scattered, smothered, and covered that is giving you 1,000 calories to be able to go on and rock on with your day is costing you $5. So you're probably leaving about $1.50 tip if the waitress is lucky. So that's some tough work right there, working at a Waffle House.
Well, and then it's so funny,
especially all the people at 2 a.m. that have been partying all night.
But this is exactly why the system doesn't work. Is because the judge will tell you to do something that is really not that possible.
Right.
We're going to throw you in jail and we'll let you out if you get a job. Oh, thanks, because now I have a record. And seriously.
But these are things that happen. That's what I think is so cool about your book. This stuff is reality. And, I know people, I know Nancy and I can tell some crazy stories, and people look at us, and then, we meet people like that too, and people don't believe you because it's things, it's unbelievable, but these stories happen all the time, and it's in our backyards everywhere. It's the same thing as human trafficking is happening in regular America's suburbia. It's happening. And, in schools, it's happening all over, these kinds of crazy things. And it's hard to believe, but it's really true. I wanted to ask, I know that probably a gazillion people ask you this, but ever see this being like a series, like a mini series on TV or some kind of movie, because it just moves so much like it could be?
So, do you have any friends at any major studios who would like to make an offer for the rights? Because I have a phone number I can give them. We've had some. You never know. So it's a funny thing with writing books. The first time you get a studio calling you, you get so excited, right? Oh my goodness! It's Miramax wants my book, and you start dreaming of Tom Hanks and Julia Roberts playing the lead, and then the reality is there's some 22-year-old intern who's going to take your book that you slaved on for a year, poured your sweat, blood, and tears into, and they're going to turn it into a 2-page treatment that will then not get read by anyone, and it ends there pretty much. So I actually, yes, I would love it if it got turned into a movie, but that's really not what I'm thinking about most of the time. I really am just worried about the book and worried about giving you the best reading experience you can have, because that's the thing I can control. The movie thing, you can't control at all. Tess Gerritsen has a great line. She says, having your book made by Hollywood is like sending your child to a daycare center run by Jeffrey Dahmer. And I guess I always just keep that in mind.
And then you come home and you can't get your kid out because it's been taken away because
Right.
something happened.
Yeah, so they turn your book into a sitcom called The System.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
That's okay. So you talk about, okay, you've got these characters and everything, and Julia Roberts and everything. When you're writing, are you picturing these characters? Do you know? I know you're talking about the babysitter, but and that could be a whole story in itself.
Oh boy, could that be a story?
But do you know, like, do you look at people and go, I want Melanie to look like this, or you know what I mean? Tell us about that process.
Every character in my book, I can close my eyes and see that person. I know exactly what they sound like. I'm not really terrific with voices, but I kind of will do voices because they have conversations in my head. So, and every scene I write, I can actually, again, close my eyes and see the scene kind of playing out on the back of my eyelids. So it's, and I'm kind of just choosing what from that scene I want to be able to tell you about as an author. What is the most important image? What is the most important thing being said? What's the most important thing happening? And that's what I pull out. But yeah, I see absolutely everything, and I hear absolutely everything going on in my head. So it does get a little crowded up there sometimes. And yes, I do talk to myself. So, if you ever walk by me when I'm writing and I'm muttering, I'm not having a paranoid delusion. I'm not having a psychic break. It's just the process working the way the process is supposed to work. Don't worry.
You should come work with us.
You better be careful. You could end up in the system.
I know. So when you're writing, that's an interesting thing. Do you have like a study? Do you go off to a different land? I mean, other than the voices in your head, are you going to another area? Some people retreat off into a cabin in the woods. Yeah,
so,
or they do Starbucks at 4 a.m.
So speaking of Waffle House, I'm not that far off. I actually write at a Hardee's restaurant.
No
Do you guys know what a Hardee's is?
Yeah.
I think out on your coast it's more Carl's Jr., but it's the same idea. So it's a fast food restaurant that, and this is the key thing. One, it has free refills on Coke Zero, which is my bubbly of choice, especially in the morning. And two, it has no wireless internet. So I am completely and totally away from email, from social media, from YouTube, from all of it. When I am at Hardee's, all I am doing is writing. So Hardee's has become my little writing sanctuary.
Are you writing longhand, or are you using?
No, I have a laptop.
Yeah.
Again, but it's a laptop that is not connected to the internet.
Yeah.
And by the way, my phone is a circa 2007 flip phone. So I do not have the internet in my pocket. These are the things I do for you, the reader, because otherwise it would take me 6 years to write a book because I would be scurrying off to YouTube and looking at shark videos like everyone else. But no, when I'm at Hardee's, all I'm doing is writing.
Okay, and now are you watching people while you're there? Because to me that's the thing, is to watch how people move. There's mannerisms, and then if you start to know, the wait staff, then you start to know their mannerisms. And
right. Well, so to a certain extent, I mean, sometimes I'm just completely in the scene I'm writing, and the world that's going on around me does not exist at all. And then there are times when I'm looking up. Like, Melanie Barrick, who is the protagonist of Closer Than You Know, is actually named after the breakfast shift manager at the Hardee's where I write. Nothing else about Melanie Barrick translates to my Melanie Barrick, but I just like the name. Or there's a character in this book, Mr. Honeywell, the Melanie Barrick's attorney, who is this guy with, kind of the sad sack guy with big bulging eyes and bags under his eyes and kind of sloppy clothes. He is based on a guy I see come into Hardee's every single morning. All I have done is taken the physical version of him and then completely filled him with this own fictional fantasy life that I have given him. But yeah, it was just, Melanie needed a lawyer, and I look up one day and there's this sad sack guy, and I said, that looks like a ham and egg lawyer to me. So I, describe him exactly as I see him. That is probably most of the time I am not looking at Hardee's for the inspiration for my characters, but every now and then it works out that way.
Hey, it's good to have people around. I think it's just they're
people watching.
I just love
that's a hoot.
Yeah, people watching is cool. I mean, it just is.
It's well, and one of the hard things for me about this gig is I'm kind of an extrovert, and so being forced to be by myself to write a novel is the hard part for me. I know a lot of novelists are introverts, of course, and so all they want is to be left alone to write their novel. I like having people around. I like having people to banter with, and I just kind of enjoy. Maybe it's because I wrote in a newsroom for a lot of years, and a newsroom is a bustling, happening place. I just like having that little buzz of background noise, and I like having people around.
Yeah, some of us are. Yeah, we're all a little different. You know, it's like I can listen to music and other people can't, and music balances me. And otherwise, I'll dilly dally and daydream everywhere.
Right.
But I have
to
zone in. So you need that little ruckus in the background. I have to tell you that a friend's sending us really interesting gifts from your conversation with us: toilets and books. Mona Lisa breastfeeding. I mean, this is an interesting conversation when I'm getting gifts like this. I just have to share that this is good.
Well, so and this is of course why the internet was invented, so that we can at our fingertips have pictures of Mona Lisa breastfeeding. That is absolutely
exactly
next to or sitting on a toilet.
And that's why you need to unplug at Hardee's, everybody. That's it. That's the new motto for Hardee's: unplug and have your coat.
But, you know, we are in the midst of this culture thing with cell phones. You know, because people die. Something happened in our neighborhood the other night where, you know, I think the police eventually had to show up, and it had to do with somebody taking somebody else's cell phone. And you would have thought they were being murdered. Seriously.
Yeah.
And then you realize people put everything about themselves and everybody they know on their cell phone.
This little box.
And it's an emergency when you lose your cell phone. It's not an emergency when you lose your telephone that's connected to a landline.
Yeah.
But it's like you put yourself into your cell phone, and now you have to protect it.
Right. Right.
Wow.
And it certainly made a crime fiction writer's life more difficult, because there's so many times where you're like, okay, I can't have this character be able to have a cell phone right now because she would just call the cops and the scene would be over with really fast. So how am I going to separate her from her cell phone in a way that seems genuine? Oh, yeah. It's always a problem.
I want to ask, okay, as a writer, because we have this whole movement to get people to take a walk, and just for health, to actually breathe, to
spy on your neighbors.
Yeah, you can take your phone to photograph something so we all know about it. Creativity, mindfulness, the whole thing. But now if you could take a 1-hour walk with anybody, alive or passed on, as a writer, you know, if you want to tap on someone's brain, or you want to actually go, okay, I want to make notes of how you talk or whatever it is for your next book, who would it be and where would you take that walk?
And they can be alive or dead, right?
Yeah, or fictional.
Okay, so I'm gonna take a walk with Harper Lee.
Nice.
To Kill a Mockingbird is, to me, the greatest crime thriller of all time. And I would just love to walk with her and talk about her process, and also ask her, and I know I'm a big fan, so I know her friends called her Nell. Nell, why didn't you write another one? Oh my God, I feel like we were robbed of about 15 or 20 great novels that she could have written us, because there were more stories to be told from Monroeville for sure. And I would love to be able to take a walk with her for sure.
Excellent. Where would you go?
Oh, hopefully, around her town in Alabama, or to Hardee's. There are a lot of Hardee's. We're in the southeast of America here, so maybe, could I? Well, she was of course, known as being a very down to earth woman. So yeah, maybe I'd just take her to Hardee's. Yeah,
Hardee's, and you could go walk through the drive-through. I know people like Nancy who've done that.
I did once.
Walk right through the drive-through
and order your food. It was really fun.
No, we'd want to do it at the counter. I'd want to be able to sit down with her and talk with her as long as she would have me.
There you go.
But there is something about walking through a drive-through that really freaks everybody out.
I know, and don't go through a drive-through dressed as a clown.
No,
That's
you
another
can't do that either.
Yes,
but it's
fun.
A bank.
No, you can't do.
Can't do it.
So, what is your champagne toast? What are you happy about?
So, as you know, my book, Closer Than You Know, comes out on Tuesday. And I'm really excited because, this is a book I've been working on for a long time, of course. It's been through my drafting process, a couple of different edits, the copy edits, all these things. And finally, it is getting to the most exciting part. It is in the hands of the readers.
It is exciting. Cool.
My Champagne Sunday toast is to readers. I love them. We were talking off air before the show about how a good book really needs a good reader, and I have been so blessed over the 8 books I've been doing this to have some wonderful, wonderful readers, and I'm just so thankful to them. Largely because without my readers, I would just be a guy muttering to himself in a Hardee's. So I need people to buy my book so I can continue doing this for a living. But I'm so excited to share this book with them and to hear what they have to think about it.
It is exciting. I think it's exciting. I get excited when there's good new music and good books.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's just it's an exciting thing in the world because it's just somebody's created something. I think it was Jerry Seinfeld who said it, even like a good joke is like something that was created and there wasn't one there in that space.
Right.
And so whenever an author puts something good, whether it's a poem, a book, a song, it's just an exciting thing because something has been created that's magical and takes you to another place and makes you think. And your book, it makes you think for sure, and it makes it. You go through a series of emotions with it, and I really appreciate that. And you're on tour now too. So I saw on your website, everyone, bradparksbooks.com, that you're going to go to Florida and all kinds of places.
Well, and if you're in Arizona, I'm going to be at the world famous Poison Pen bookstore on this coming Wednesday, actually. So it's in Scottsdale, the Poison Pen. I'm going to be appearing there with Christopher Rice, who's the son of Anne Rice, the famous vampire chronicler.
Wow.
And he is a wonderful, marvelous writer in his own right. So it's going to be a twofer at the Poison Pen on Wednesday night. Hope all of your listeners can come out for that one.
I have a question from a listener who wants to know, did you read Harper Lee's Go Set a Watchman?
I did read Harper Lee's Go Set a Watchman, and I think that's probably the biggest reason I wish she had written more books, because I saw how much she improved from that book to Kill a Mockingbird, and what a quantum leap she made. And I bet she would have kept getting better and better and better as she gained more confidence as a writer. So yes, Go Set a Watchman was interesting because the first 3-4 chapters of it, and they're very long, by the way, read like a really poorly written romance novel where there's no sex. And then you get these like few charming passages of the character, who is at this point a grown woman, reminiscing about her childhood. And obviously some very smart editor in New York said, hey, the stuff where she's reminiscing, do the book based on that, not the rest of this bad romance stuff. So yeah, I did read that, and I kind of, it's the kind of book that you wish had been released to scholars, but maybe we didn't need to sell 1.5 million copies of it to the reading public, because it was nothing that was truly worth reading. I think when Harper Lee was in her right mind, she didn't want people reading that book, and you can certainly see why when you read it. It's not her best work.
Aw. Well, I think it's sad though when I think the whole process to even get published is that's the hard thing. You can write something, and then you have to go through the publishing, and that can take time off from the writing, right? To actually.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, sure.
And yeah, and then if someone's gone, then that's it. It's kind of like that's what you get. So you know what I mean. So real quick, when having things published internationally, is that a process that you get involved in? Once that distribution starts to happen, do you? You don't get to proofread what it's like in, Hebrew, like you're saying.
I go over my Hebrew edition line by line and point out falsehoods. No. The international thing is just a load of fun because, if nothing else, when your wife needs you to do the dishes or something like that, you can be like, I'm sorry, honey, I can't answer you right now. I'm answering questions from my German edition editor. Like it kind of, it maybe works. No, that doesn't work at all. It's just it's.
I was going to say,
fun.
I don't believe you.
Exactly. Or the French edition, I use Google Translate to try and see what people are saying about my book.
Yeah,
how funny.
And so the French edition of Say Nothing, there was this line in this review in what I think was a fairly prominent magazine, and it said, and again I'm doing this in Google Translate, it said, not a word I liked. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty harsh. There were 120,000 words in this book, and you didn't even like one of them? And then I realized that not a word was how Say Nothing translated into French. So really, I was off the hook. They were saying they liked the book.
Oh gosh.
But,
Makes you wonder, though.
Yeah,
what the
you
translations
get that kind of
are
thing.
really saying.
Yeah.
Or like Closer Than You Know has not come out in Germany yet, but the Germans decided to give it a different title, which is Ich vernichte dich, which translates to I will destroy you.
Oh, nice.
That's really
So
not
that's
the thing that ran through my mind.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
this is
that's
so much fun.
the German take on
I have a friend she's a New York Times best-selling author on organizing, Regina Leeds. And her books got translated and they did audio, and so she was listening to her books in different languages.
That's
she was cracking up. She was just like, this is like, who knew? You know what I mean?
I love looking at the covers, like the Italian cover for Say Nothing. And Say Nothing is a book that features a federal judge whose children have been kidnapped by somebody looking to control the outcome of a case he's hearing. So it's a really heavy book, but it features this judge. Well, the Italian cover has this guy with no shirt on it. And I'm like, how many judges do you know go around topless? Like, did the kidnappers who came to take his kids, did they also take his shirt? Is that how it worked? But, that's the Italians. They want a topless judge. Hey, fine. Viva la differences.
Funny.
Oh,
it's
wow.
It's a bodice ripper.
I know.
Yeah.
Say nothing. Say nothing. Oh, wow. Brad, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations on the release of Closer Than You Know, everybody. Go to bradparksbooks.com, of course, Amazon Indie Books, Google, all those places you can get him. Also, go look on his website and see where he may be coming to a city near you or a Hardee's near you. You never know. So thank you so much for joining us, and do keep us posted on the next one.
Absolutely, we do. Lisa and Nancy, thanks so much for having me on.
Toast to you. Thanks.
All right, have a great day.
You too. Awesome stuff. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's got to get that book. It's good. Closer Than You Know. Now we're going to go to Sweden from the southeast and eating at Hardee's.
Yeah.
And messing with the system. We're going to go to Sweden, to Stockholm, to talk with our friend John Magnusson about his brand new EP. It's called Always a Rebel. Like, put that as your EP title, and I'm in. I'm in. But really a very thoughtful EP. It rocks. It calms you down. It makes you think. It's very thought provoking, and the melodies are good. It's a badass EP. So everybody's got to get it. So before we get him on the show, take a listen to the title track again. Always a Rebel.
Your head in the stars, your eyes fitted in black, and your soul full of scars. You are dreaming in your room when it's dark, music on your mind and on your chin there's a mark. You're a rebel, always a rebel. You are old now, but you were never meant to be. Your friends to go to work, whereas you're watching TV, and you're drinking for yourself in the street, drowning your anxiety in whiskey and defeat. But you're a rebel, always a rebel. You are, and as a rebel you can go where the wind blows, but you have to do it all on your own. inside you're longing for a life where you will never be apart. But a rebel, yeah, a rebel you are. And as a rebel you can go where the wind blows, but you have to do it all on your own. And as a rebel you know where to start, but you will never be a star. But a rebel, always a rebel you are.
You're listening to Big Blend Radio Champagne Sunday Show with Nancy and Lisa, and you just heard Always a Rebel. And John, I need you to call back in, please. There's a big static there. So anyway, that was John Magnuson, and that was Always a Rebel, which is the title track of his brand new EP, which is awesome. It's got a little punk in there, a little folk, 4 brand new originals, and Always a Rebel also has a remix at the end of it, which is really cool. So that's a really cool thing. But this EP for 4 songs takes you on a nice little journey. So everyone, you can go to his website. It actually comes out March 9th. We're getting all the new stuff. I like this.
I like it.
It's all about getting it on early here on Big Blend Radio. But it releases March 9th in all the different outlets. But you can go to his website, johnmagnuson.se is the website to keep up with John. He's also on Twitter and Facebook and all those great places. Let's see if we can get him on now. John?
Yeah, do you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. How are you?
I'm really good here in Sweden.
Yeah, I know. There's a little bit of an echo, but it's not too bad. But congratulations on the EP, and then congratulations on being a daddy.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's both things are amazing, but I think the kid thing is a little bit more amazing than the EP.
It's quite a big deal. I see you. You know, you're such a networker. You're always on social media with videos, playing, and then sometimes with your little baby right there.
Yeah.
You know. So do you think your little baby's going to become a musician or a rebel?
I hope so. I'm going to hire her as a comp musician in my band when I'm going on tour. So she has to start playing the guitar.
There it is. Get going now. Now.
Yeah.
Well, it's quite a balance to do, to have a new, an expanded family and a new EP out. But this is a really good EP. I loved it. I love every part of it. I love the melodies, the music, and it's like, the other one, Psalms for Sinners. It's like it's an expansion off of that for me, in that you still have that little edge of punk, a little bit of folk, and really good storylines.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I saw you wrote that it was thought-provoking, and that's like the best compliment I can get for it. It's really what I want to achieve.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to hear that. Well, and that's the thing. You think about. Actually, it kind of goes with some of the comments Nancy made at the beginning of the show today, because you look at Always a Rebel. I think there's something inside of us right now. I know how we're feeling in this country. Tell us about Always a Rebel, how that came about, and why you decided that is going to be the EP. Did it start with that song?
No, not really. I think I had these 4 songs that I wanted to record, and Always a Rebel, Set Me on Fire were new songs that I written last year, and the other ones were old songs. Rely on Me was actually written in Swedish for my wife's birthday like 7 years ago. And I'm not the only one. It's also an old song, so I wanted to record all 4 of them. And then I thought that Always a Rebel was a really good title for the EP as a whole.
It's interesting. Set Me on Fire. That song. I like it because it goes through all those thoughts that people have, and it's kind of like when you're raised, there's these things that people tell you must believe, and I think that Set Me on Fire really goes with Always a Rebel. Those two are like it's like the A and B side, you know what I mean? Because it's kind of that. Set Me on Fire is like, am I going to, conform, or am I going to do what I want, even if you think it's,
Yeah, I think it's a really, really good interpretation. Like, I don't want it to be like an attack on religious people, because people have the right to their own beliefs. But it's more like an attack on the dogmatic view on religion or any belief, for that matter. Like, you can't force your opinion onto someone else.
Right. Yeah, you can't. And don't.
That's true.
We're going through a lot of that in this country of in God we trust, what we put in school.
So I have seen.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how's Sweden doing.
It's not as bad, but it's like it's getting really polarized here as well. So I think it's the most extreme voices that are getting heard on both sides, and that's like really killing the conversation amongst people.
That's where music comes in. You get to be the buffer. And make people think without someone telling them, you will think now. You know what I mean? The music, I think that's what's so important about this. And it's so this is the thing, too, because you do music in Swedish and then in English. So how's that work when it comes to the lyrics?
Sometimes, like with Rely on Me, it's a translation from the Swedish song, and sometimes when I start writing a song or a song comes to my head, already there I know if it's going to be in Swedish or English. Like, it's quite different kinds of language. Swedish is quite hard to write lyrics in, but English, like as a Swede, you can write almost whatever in English, because people aren't going to listen that much to the lyrics as they're going to do if it's in Swedish.
Interesting. So now, so Always a Rebel having a remix. Tell us about that part. I like it.
That is actually the original version. That it's more like a country Americana kind of sound. But then my producer thought, oh, hey, I'm going to do a totally new mix of this and make it more close to the original idea we had about the song. And I really loved both versions of it. But I preferred the original, the mix that came like song number 4. But I also wanted the alternative mix to stay on the EP, so that's why we have 2 mixes of it.
It's a nice little bonus, I think that's cool. Now, last time you were on the show was, I think it was last year, mid-year last year, like in summer, I think.
In the beginning of August, I think.
Yeah, you were on our World Radio Party with, we had Nikki Chris on there, and then James Saunders from South Africa. We had a nice conversation about what was going on with SoundCloud and independent music, and, so now you've got a new EP out, you've got a baby, you traveled to England, you did a tour through England. That was fun. That was fun watching that. It
was so much fun doing it as well. I got really sick the second part of the tour, but like I took some I got a recipe of hot toddy. It was whiskey, honey, lemon, and hot water, and that saved the last shows.
Well, I know how that works.
Yes.
I was kind of a disaster afterwards, though.
It's just at the end, it's like, woo, you know. So are you going to go back to England?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if I manage to go this year, but definitely going next year. And hopefully I can bring my wife and my kid with me as well, so make it kind of a vacation.
That'd be nice. And then the other thing, too, I mean, your music is going all over the world, which is awesome, even in South Africa, and I see you so busy, on social media and networking and working together with other independent musicians. Do you think that's part of the success of getting your word out there, is just, you keep beating on the door and working together with other people?
Yeah, definitely. Like I still have a little contact with Nikki and James. Like we are friends on Facebook, and I see James putting a picture of the fishes he catches down in Australia. And like I also started to interact with the new technology, with all the blockchain stuff that is really interesting for independent music.
Yeah, it is changing up a little bit, because I know when you were on the show you were talking about you're doing a lot with Spotify.
Yeah.
And so you're still doing a lot with them. Are they still, because I just saw that they went public, didn't they?
Yeah.
As a company.
Yeah, exactly. I still think Spotify is a good way to reach out to like the broader audience, but I really prefer the new services that are more like it's a lot more transparent. It's a lot more fair to the artist. Like there is a service called Musicoin, where you sign a contract. That's the name is Pay for Play. Like the listener pays directly to you as an artist every time they play your song, instead of going through record labels and PROs and all the middlemen.
That's good, because I think that was a hard time at the beginning for musicians with that, was that kind of thing where they weren't getting their money. And I think there was a little bit of, toss and tumble with something like that. Do you think SoundCloud is still going to stick around?
I don't think so, actually, because like you don't get anything from SoundCloud. I think they cleaned up quite a lot of the spam on SoundCloud, but it's still the new services is gonna take over, unfortunately.
I see changes. And just even here on the radio side, there's changes every single day, and the internet. I mean, it seems like there's these bigger companies coming in and swallowing up the little ones.
Yeah.
So and sometimes that can be a better thing because they can give the money into it. Sometimes it's not. And so it's anybody who's in anything, whether it's podcasting, it's independent music, publishing, you have to keep your eyes out on all of your vendors, all the people you work with.
Yeah, like it's like two parallel processes. Like one is the major companies taking over everything, but at the grassroots level, like there are a lot of services where you can, like the consumer can do micro payments directly to the artist, which I think that's gonna really change it for a lot of independent artists, at least.
Yeah, I think and that's why working together with other artists too. I think that's another thing is, do you feel like that if musicians talk to each other and work together versus competing, that it can work better for that kind of thing?
Definitely. Like I stopped entering competitions and contests because I think it's more it doesn't answer who's the best musician. It's answer who can get the most family members to vote for their song. So I'm much more for collaborations and cooperation with other artists and also other like radio persons like you guys and bloggers. Like everyone depends on each other, so it's better to help each other out than to compete.
That's for sure.
Yeah, I like that. I want to play another one of your songs. Is that okay, John?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I wanted to play I'm Not the Only One, just to talk. It goes with what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I like that. But I wanted everyone to hear this, and then we'll definitely play another one before you go. But here it is. I'm not the other one, I'm not the only one. I'm not having that much champagne, can you tell? I have to bring this up to everybody. Speaking of being on Twitter with you, it's so fun because you guys all you're busy on there, but I remember one day going, "Happy Hump Day" to you.
Yeah.
And you're like, is that what it is it real what how dirty it is? There were some interesting conversations going back and forth on Hump Day. It's the Hump Day, it's the middle of the week. And then all of a sudden he's got a little baby girl in his life. So I think you took it seriously.
Yeah.
That's funny, but anyway, here it is. I'm not the only one, everyone. Go get Always a Rebel out March 9th. Again, John Magnuson, singer-songwriter.se is the website to go to. So enjoy this.
Got nothing left in my pocket. Don't wanna sell my soul. It's nothing worth. Got nothing else here to offer. Look at me, I'm broke. I lost control. There's nothing left to leave. There's no one else to be. I cannot sleep tonight, but I'm not the only one. Come lay your arms around me. Come share my goals. Come raise my hope. And feel my hair through your fingers. Move them down my bones. Just make it slow. There's nothing left to see. There's no one else to be. I cannot sleep tonight, but I'm not the only one. In the end, there's nothing to die for, nothing to show, nothing to adore. Just give my life a new sound. Soon we'll be old, so come make me glow. There's nothing left to see. There's no one else to be. I cannot sleep tonight, but I'm not the only one.
Everyone, again, that was I'm Not the Only One off of the brand new EP called Always a Rebel by John Magnuson, and you can get it at johnmagnuson.se. It'll be out on March 9th in all the main outlets there. John, I love that song because I feel like you've got the 60s and 70s and 80s all melded together. You know, there's like, and yet it flows, and it takes you, I feel like you're listening, you're in someone's thoughts listening to that.
Yeah, you have a really good interpretation of my songs. That's also what I'm trying to achieve with this song, like to really follow someone's flow of thoughts, and I also want it to be quite bittersweet. Like it's a bit mellow, but still very hopeful.
It's very honest. It's a very kind of raw honesty, and I think that's what's refreshing about your music. I think this is real stuff. You know, it's not overproduced, and there's this raw inner stuff going on that you, if anybody got hold of it in one of those big corporate things, they'd start cleaning it they would ruin it.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. That's like I can't barely listen to mainstream music anymore. I listen to jazz and I listen to independent music. It's the only thing I can stand.
Yeah, it's like, I know, because it becomes this, and it almost all sounds so flat.
It starts to sound like commercials.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no movement, there's no dynamics anymore, and that's what I think is so hard. I want something that I can hear what someone is trying to say, and even if it is in a different language, you should be able to get that too,
I think it's because they try to appeal to everybody.
Yeah.
They want to have a marketability factor and have a direct target market, but at the same time, so they want you to say, what kind of musician are you? And don't pick more than one kind. But when they produce something, they want it to broadcast it out, and everybody should like it. So then it takes all the edge off.
Yeah, and they want it to sound good on iPhones. Like the sound is so compressed. That's because you should be able to play it as loud as possible in any kind of stereo, but that kills all the dynamics.
Okay.
See, that's interesting.
Yeah, I never thought about that. Now,
putting
this together, you produced it with you, and then you had two other friends. One friend, Ruben Engzel, and it was Studio. Okay, you get to pronounce that. Like, every time you come on the show, I want a Swedish lesson.
Studio Ljudriket.
Ljudriket.
Yeah.
Studio Ljudriket. Ooh, what does that mean?
Ljudriket. That's really hard to translate. Like ljud is sound, like rain of sound.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's like water harmony kind of. Yeah, I know. I understand that. So L and J is like a U. So Ljudriket. Okay. So Ruben, tell us about Ruben.
We actually met through my vocal coach. So I recorded the vocals for a song for Sinners with him, but then I decided I wanted to do the real thing for this EP, and I hired him. He's actually a professional sound engineer with a university degree and everything. But most of all, like, he really gets my aesthetic view, so he really pushes me to do the best thing with my music, and he comes with all these crazy ideas. Like in the end of Set Me on Fire, he plays a distorted glockenspiel, like a real glockenspiel that we ran through an amplifier to distort it, and it sounds amazing. Cool. So we worked on this since June last year, so more than half a year. But it has been so much fun, and really click on a creative level.
And then also talking about that, I know I want to talk about your drummer too, but talking about on the creative side, you also worked with a Brazilian rapper, Bruno Smokey.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is so cool. So you're open to trying something completely different.
Yeah. The fun thing is that that's actually my wife's cousin's husband, and we recorded it the same day as I was on the show in August.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that because you guys were out in the yard with a drum and carrying on, and it was cool. I was like, dude, that's awesome. And then I'm like, wait, we need more champagne. Keep playing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, Jesper Johnson. So that was the drummer on the EP, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And go ahead.
And he also has released some new songs with Ruben as the producer as well, and it's really good. And the name is The Courage. I can send you the link on Twitter later on. He's also really good, both a good songwriter and an amazing drummer. Like I think that's maybe the biggest difference between this EP and the last one is that the drums are so good and so tight and so good. Like he did an amazing job. I
love this EP. I mean, I'm excited about it, and to me, there's these. these songs, like the whole EP, could be in part of in a movie, and it'd have to be independent because of who you are as Mr. Independence here.
Yeah.
Because even Always a Rebel just says, listen, like I'm an independent, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm raising my flag, and that's that. It's like it is about being very true to yourself. This whole album is like I'm true to myself, and I'll do it the way I want to, even if it's not going to always, be the best thing for. You know what I mean? It's not going to be, if it's not the Miss Popularity contest. That this is about being true to yourself for integrity purposes.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Like some people would say, like you can't have a hip hop song and then an electronic dance music song and then some indie rock and then some folk. You can't blend those genres in one profile. But I think why not?
I agree with you on that. Why not? I mean, absolutely. That's to me what makes it exciting. And would you ever have your music on a movie? Would you like to do something like that for like in an independent movie as a soundtrack?
That would be awesome. That would be a dream.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool.
Yes. So if you know someone, tell them.
I know. I'm just going to ask everyone every time they're on the show. I talk about that because if some things just are really suited for that, and I think your music is. So what's next for you, John?
Next is I actually during Christmas when we were waiting for Alma to arrive, like she was about to arrive in the end of January, so I decided, I want to record an acoustic EP here during the holidays, and I almost managed to record it all, but then she decided to came on New Year's Day. So
I remember, New Year's Day. I was like, wow.
But I actually finished recording that one, and it's getting mixed and mastered by a friend of mine from Luxembourg. So it's going to be done in a few days, but I think I will wait to release that until later on, because I don't want it to clash too much with this EP. And then I'm also doing some fun collaboration. I'm actually singing on a EDM song from the name is Sevo. I don't pronounce it really good, but he's a friend I met through the Steam It community. So I have quite a lot of things going on.
That is cool. That is cool. So the best thing for people to keep up with you is through your website, and then go to YouTube and Twitter and all that is if they go to johnmagnuson.se?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's John with no H, and it's JONMAGNUSSON, johnmagnuson.se, and connect with him on Twitter and on Facebook, and you're still doing like a thing where you send out like a blog through Facebook, through Messenger and stuff, right?
Yeah, I would say if you really want to follow me closely, I would say the Messenger channel is the best one.
That's interesting. I don't know many people doing that. That's an interesting way.
It's mostly like small businesses that uses it, but I think it's really, really useful as a musician as well.
Why not? Yeah, why not? So I want to play Set Me on Fire because we have to. You want to give everybody a little background on the song?
Actually, I wrote it like I came up with the first line, like put something in my bloodstream to take away the pain. It was like a few years ago I was struggling with a lot of anxiety, and I actually met a really good doctor and started medicating for it. So it's actually quite of a tribute to the medication, and it's actually something that went to my bloodstream and took the pain away. So that's really honest. And then the rest of it is like my view on life. Like I don't believe there is any inherent meaning to life. Like you have to create the meaning for yourself together with others. But if you choose to believe in God or something else, that's totally fine, as long as it's as you don't push your beliefs on someone else.
Yeah. It's about being independent, man. It is. It really is. Yeah, that's it. And so now, what is your champagne toast? You're not allowed to leave here without a toast, or is it beer for you? Because I know that I think you like beer, as I recall.
Yeah, I think it's exactly the same beer as I had during summer. It's Swedish light beer because I don't want to get drunk now when I have a kid to take care of. So instead, I'm drinking light beer.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, balance, huh? That's a balance.
Yeah.
You need that. So what are you toasting to?
I have to toast to the new EP, and of course to my daughter and my wife, and also my father-in-law that's living with us, and he has been such a great help during these 2 first months, and like all the independent music community, Monster Thread, Atom Collector Records, and just everyone.
No, we should say that Monster Thread. Tell everybody about Monster Thread. Hashtag Monster Thread.
Yeah, it's a community that I started last summer as well, and since 4 or 5 months ago, I'm running it together with Toby Davis, who's also the guy who producing my acoustic EP. So we're trying to get interaction between independent artists and collaboration with playlists, and like I know people who got to know each other through the Monster Thread and played gigs together in the UK, and so it's a lot about interact with each other and find the collaborations.
How do people get connected with you for that?
It's the monsterthread.com is the website, and there you can read everything about it, and also join the Facebook group. Like most of the interaction is through the Facebook group.
Okay, so there you go, man. This is awesome. You're like a busy bee when it comes to networking, everybody. I haven't seen anybody just like. You're like active, dude.
yeah, but it's so much fun.
It is. Well, it's cool because you get to connect with people, you know.
Yeah.
And those who don't, it's like, oh well, you're missing the party.
Yeah, well, it's like I start to forget how I really got to know people. Like I don't remember how we met. I think it was through
Twitter.
Yeah.
Oh, you emailed us. And yeah. I think it was through Twitter, and then you emailed us there. Yeah, we did that.
Yeah, that's it. Like, but I think the most important thing is like a lot of people, they send an email and they got a song played on radio, and that's it. They doesn't follow it up or build a real relationship, and then it gets quite boring. But to be able to come on the show again, to follow each other on Facebook, like I got to know some new people thanks to you, like Nick and James. So I think the follow-up is more important than like everyone can send an email to anyone, but it's the follow-up that it's the hard thing.
Yeah, no, that's a good lesson in life. It's about building relationships. Because it's true, and if you're not doing something together and having that relationship, we forget. I mean, for us, we get emails and all of that all the time, and it's like, okay, who are we going to work with? You know, we're going to work with someone that we've built a relationship on. That's part of our business motto is that.
Yeah.
You know, not the people who don't do follow-ups, or to me that's actually part of a respect. Actually, is the follow-up between each other.
Yeah, definitely, and I understand. Like an artist, you won't be able to listen to every radio show that plays your music all the time because you don't. It's physically impossible. But you have to like at least retweet and answer and listen to a bit of it. Like I maybe tune in like 3-4 times to listen to the Big Blend radio show, like some kind of payback.
Well, because you have to. Yeah, because how do you know if it's even a show you want to be on? That's another thing. You know, people come on shows and it's like, have you ever listened to a show? You know, this is kind of just a tip. You know, but you've tuned in. I remember we've actually had 2 Swedish people on our shows after you. We had Nina Söderqvist, the vocalist. She's an incredible singer, and we also had Linda McGurk, and she's here in the States. She lives in Indiana, and she wrote a parenting book about there's no such thing as bad weather, and that here in America people don't go out in with their kids and don't experience nature as much as growing up in Sweden. Like even if it's snowing, people will go out for a hike.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I heard some of that show and actually had some interaction with her as well when she was on the show.
Oh, cool. And so is that true now? Are you taking your baby on walks even if there's a lot of snow? You were on a video the other day, and I'm looking at your backyard. I'm going, oh, look how much snow! It looks like magical.
It really is. Like I live 20 minutes from the center of Stockholm, but I have like the most beautiful lake 10 minutes walk away. So I've been walking a lot with my dog here, but the baby is still too small to be outside because it has been like 10 degrees minus Celsius.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit.
Cold.
Yeah.
Cold. That's cold. That's when I whine. Then I start crying like a baby with that kind of weather. But then I really like looking at the snow because it's so pretty and it's so quiet and peaceful.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh, wow. So keep us posted on all the new music, you know that. And everybody, again, go get Always a Rebel. It's a great EP, and it'll be out March 9th. And go to johnmagnuson.se. Keep up with him on Twitter and all those great outlets as well. Thank you so much for joining us, John.
Thank you, and cheers.
Cheers. Toast to you. Congratulations on all
Thank you very
your
much.
baby, family, and all the work that you're doing in connecting people. Toast to you. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Here it is. Set Me on Fire, because you need some heat over there. We're going to play this now, everyone.
Attenuate my anxiety, make me go astray. Then cover me with blankets, ease my aching heart. I don't wanna be a martyr, though I suffer for the art. Set me on fire. Don't preach about eternity while life is fairly well. Don't lie to us. I know that there's no heaven, there's no hell. And if Jesus is your savior, cross me off your list. In the end I might get burned, but I gladly take that risk. Set me on fire. Set me on fire. And kisses fire burning, don't tuck me into sleep. Whisper softly in my ear that I'm the one you keep. I might get overheated, I might put on a show, but what's the point in holding back? I never liked it slow.
love this EP.
Mm-hmm.
Always a rebel, everybody. John Magnuson.se, and that was Set Me on Fire. He really has those three, like, eras, like 60s, 70s, and 80s, and there's like parts of some of the songs I go, that's got a little Pink Floyd, and then I'm like, no, there's a little U2, and then I'm like, it's just John.
But it's
John, you know what I mean?
It's clean, though, you know what I mean?
You
it's
can,
not
like,
so cluttered and...
Yeah.
I like it.
You can understand, like Steve Schneikert, Hollywood historian, he was just saying that you can understand what he's saying. It's one of those, you can just identify with his songs as a human. Because sometimes I'm a human. And
say when it
I don't know when. I know, man. But I love it. I love that music. The whole EP, and it's great. It's like and Psalms for Sinners, his EP before that, it just feels like it's a continuation, a lot of similar themes of being true to yourself. I like that too. We got to remember that in these days.
Yeah, you got to separate yourself from the chaos.
Mhm. Absolutely.
And bring it back.
I know.
So one day when we say mainstream radio, it'll be us. It'll be good music.
I know, that's the thing. I know, and not just not Hotel California over and over. No offense to Hotel California.
Yeah, no, because that's a great song, but enough now.
I know. It is kind of, yeah, it is what it is. I do want to give a shout out before we get Andy Powell on the show to Nikki Chris, who we were talking about. Here's a song from her. It is called Falling to Pieces. I actually wanted to play it earlier, and I wanted to play this because, so much is going on in the world, and she wrote this after the shooting in Orlando. And it's really about standing up against that kind of thing and spreading love, not hate. So take a listen to this. Nikki Chris, we play her music. We play John's all the time, and just incredible independent music. And that's the one thing we can do as, music lovers is to look at the alternatives. They're out there. The independent channels are out there to listen to go through places like Spotify and find really good new music. And it's out there. So here it is.
Out there.
Falling to Pieces.
Lost in my head, keep thinking about what you've done. It's really hard to smile. Could you have done this to your own child? And I don't even know why. I have no words to describe how this makes me feel. But I want you to know that I've got the will of steel. I'm not falling to pieces, though I'm battered and bruised. I'm not falling to pieces or broken used. I'm not falling to pieces, not dazed or confused. I'm not falling to pieces over you. Letting go of all this hate I feel inside. Let me tell you, no, I won't let you contain my pride. I won't let this define me. We've come too far to just give in. Ignorance is the enemy of peace. No, I'm not gonna let you win.
Nikki Chris, go to NICKIKRIS, NikkiChris.com. Falling to Pieces. Her message is spread love, not hate. She rocks. We love Nikki.
Yeah.
Got to play that. We played James on Friday, so now we've got the three of them all covered. I've got to play them. And we love playing their music, and excited about our next guest. Andy Powell, one of the best guitarists in the world, is joining us. He's the founder of Wishbone Ash. They're coming up to 50 years. Their 50-year anniversary this year.
That's amazing.
That's next year. Yeah, they're starting to celebrate. They have a new limited edition deluxe 30-disc box set coming out called Wishbone Ash, The Vintage Years. It's coming out in April, but I mean limited edition. It's out through Madfish Records, so while supplies last. So you hear it, go get ready, pounce on it. And I'm going to play one of the songs on there, and I love it. The King Will Come. And then we'll chat with Andy. So take a listen and enjoy. And again, keep your eye out for this one-time thing happening at the Vintage Years. that's going to get you in trouble. You're listening to Big Blend Radio's Champagne Sunday show with Nancy and Lisa, and you just heard The King Will Come by legendary rockers Wishbone Ash. It's featured on the new limited edition deluxe 30-disc box set coming out, Wishbone Ash, The Vintage Years. It's available in April 2018, and they're coming to America, doing a tour, and it's celebrating 50 years of Wishbone Ash. Anyway, so go to wishboneash.com and get connected and keep up with them on social media so you can get this. They've got other albums out as well. And we're super excited to have founding member, guitarist, vocalist, songwriter Andy Powell with us on the show. Andy, how are you?
Well, hello. I'm good. I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
We're excited about this, but I want to tell you, your music, it makes me feel like I should run naked through the fields. I don't know. There's something tribal and transcendental, and then somehow, like I want to do all kinds of things I shouldn't do.
No, nice.
Well, you just bowled me over. Let me get back off the floor. Yeah, I mean, just listening to that just then, it's like something from another century. So I can kind of see what you're saying. It is from another century.
It reminds me of my days as a kid going to Griffith Park just outside of Hollywood, and all these bands would show up at this one park, and you would just do stuff all day and listen to music, and then you'd go walk Sunset Strip at night.
Yeah.
That sounds a pretty fun time to have. I mean, you know, where the music from the era that our band was formed in, it was like that. You know, I mean, there was it was very sort of uplifting and generally, you know, as if it was a free time, very free point in time for music, and we were just having the best time of our lives. I think that's what music should do. It should make you feel like that. It should be the soundtrack to your life.
Yeah, it's like enough with the rules already.
Yeah, and I like that.
That's what it is.
But your music, you have everything in there, and that's what I really love. It's like, you think, okay, it's going to be this way for the next song. No, it's going to be this way. So it's kind of like it feels like you've taken us on a journey of different musical styles for 50 years. I'm not there. I'm not even 50 years old yet, but I'll celebrate 50 years of music with you.
Well, that's very nice. I mean, the box set is actually just the first 30 years of the career. So, you know, and I mean, you're right. I mean, bands that were from the era that we were formed in, which was like late 60s, early 70s, I mean, you could really just be very experimental with your styles, and you could go in different directions as the wind took you. And that was the great thing about it. You know, these days you tend to get more pigeonholed into a particular style, but we were very free. If we wanted to play a little blues ditty or 1 minute or a country thing the next minute, we could do that, and we could jam if we wanted to, and so it was a very free time. You know, it was a good time to be alive and making music, and you know, we're still doing it.
I know, we love that. We love that. And you're coming to America. It sounds like Eddie Murphy should be joining you when I say that. But but you're coming back over and doing a tour in April, and you're doing like a whirlwind for like a month. I mean, you're going, you know, from the south, and you're coming through to Arizona, which we're based in Tucson. I know I think you're going to be playing up in Phoenix. You're in Texas. You got Austin. They must love you in Austin. Everywhere.
Yeah,
very
it's nice.
Cool.
I mean, yeah, we generally come through about once a year, and we do 2 tours a year. We do one which is across the Midwest and up and down the East Coast, and another one like this one that you're just mentioning, that will be in the places that you just mentioned, in the South and the West. But just prior to that, in fact, on Wednesday I'm flying to Poland to play in Poland, a few shows there. And then we're doing France, which will be really nice, playing Paris, France, and that's sold out already. So direct from there, we'll be coming to America. So yeah, it's going to be a hectic time.
And then you go to Canada, like in the fall. So like it's like nonstop. So how do you all get along? And tell us how the band is, and how you guys enjoy traveling and having that kind of schedule together.
Well, you know, we do our touring is taken in really dense chunks. So you know, in the fall we'll almost tour consistently from September through till the spring through into March, and then in the summer we tend to lighten up a little bit and do festivals, which are just like flying out and going to some interesting festival somewhere on the planet and playing a show, and then we come home. So we have a bit more free time. But, you know, the thing with a band that like us that tours a lot, you have to get on well, and it's pretty intense. You know, you're traveling one-night stands every day, and you're in a bus or whatever transport you're in. And you learn to live together, and you learn to enjoy it as you go through. I mean, the great secret about touring is to make it feel like you're where you need to be at that moment in time, you know, and not try and fight it. Just go with the flow, you know, roll with the punches.
Roll with it. Has it changed over the years, like from when you first started touring to now? I mean, because
yeah.
Is the partying level different?
The partying level is different. If I partied at the same level that we partied in the 70s, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you now. But
we're glad
but
you're here.
You know, I smell the roses a little bit more now. I mean, I think that on the early tours we were so busy partying that I would be doing an American tour, for example, which could be by airplane or could be by bus. And mostly I would know if I was in LA or New York, probably. But you know, if I was in Des Moines, Iowa, or some, you know, like even Tucson, I wouldn't particularly have a really clear idea where that was, and I'd just wake up in the morning and I'd know that there was a show in the evening, but now that would be about as far as it would go. But these days I'm much more interested in where we go, and I'm, you know, if we have a day free or we can stop off somewhere en route and we see some interesting architecture or an interesting city, or go to a restaurant that someone's recommended, or even a zoo, it doesn't matter what it is. We just take advantage of it all, because that's part and parcel of making the whole thing work for you and making it enjoyable, you know?
Yeah, I think that music
detours.
The detours. We've done some music parts, and side of my life was like, I want to be on the road as a musician because I want to be on the road. And then it dawned on me, like, I just really want to be on the road no matter what. Like, that's the thing. There's something that happens, and you have to like live in that moment, you know. And it's great if you get out of the car and at least see something, or off the bus, or you know, be able to experience it. So tell us about Mark Abrams, playing with him.
Well, you know, he's a little bit younger than me, which is nice, and he's brought that fresh kind of youthful attitude to it. And for the first time in a long time, we're back with an all British band. I mean, the previous guitar player that was in the band was a guy called Jyrki Manninen, who was from Finland, and you know, so there were it was interesting working with somebody from way up there in Scandinavia, and a different mental attitude, a different approach to life and music. But now Mark is from Yorkshire, which is in the north of England, and he's a very down-home Yorkshire lad, great guitar player. He's done quite a bit in music himself. So, and the most interesting thing is that he's been a fan of the band since he was really a preteen. So he actually listened to our music at the feet of his father, who would have been continually be playing our songs. And so it's almost as if the music's in his DNA. He's kind of grown up with it. And, you know, we find that now. We're a band that's been going for so long that, you know, we have our fans, they span generations of families, you know. So you might get parents bring along their kids, and, you know, they make it a big family affair. And that's the nice thing about when we play shows. It's multi-generational, and it's fun. So he was one of those original fans, but now he finds himself in the band, and I think he's been doing it for about a year, and I think he's still pinching himself, actually, because he actually hasn't toured many different countries. And so I just watch him sometimes looking out of the window, or encountering, say, Germans or French people or Americans even, you know, and he's just I could just see he's going through what I went through years ago, and just really enjoying that experience, which is lovely to see.
I mean, that is cool. I mean, because being 50 years as a band, you've had to go through a lot of change, and so is that part of it? Is being able to go through those changes and it being straddle that balance? Yeah.
It really is. Yeah. I mean, you know, if you like, that's my job, because I'm probably the one member that's seen the most changes, and I've had to sort of adapt. I mean, let's face it, musical styles have changed, politics have changed. Even countries and cultural things have changed. Certain the way that you can be, and the way that things were. I've seen a lot. So the whole deal is being adaptable. And I mean, travel in general makes you that way anyway. I mean, that's gets back to what we were just saying. I mean, if you got a romantic nature and you are adaptable and you can be in the moment, then travel's for you. And I mean, I got the bug years ago, and I still love it. And to me, it's part and parcel of being a musician. It's if I meet a younger musician, they say, "Yeah, I really like playing music, but the traveling thing is hard." And I said, "Well, you got to embrace that if you want to do it, because you got to go to the people,
Yeah, it's something special, and it's it's just, to me, there's an electric thing that happens. There's an energy that happens live, and that's what I'm excited about with the vintage years, having that coming out. So the vintage years, so that people have to make a mad dash for that, right? When that comes out in April.
Well, yeah, because it's a limited release, as you mentioned. It's 2,500. Which it doesn't sound like that many, but it's an expensive thing. It's 30 CDs. I mean, by the standards of these kind of deluxe historical box sets, it is a good value product. And it comes with a coffee table book full of all kinds of beautifully printed photographs, and it's really a 150-page interview with all the original members of the band, and a lot of historical information in there. And if you're a fan of the band, and you've collected the albums through the years, then it's obviously a must for you. But once the pressing is done, it's done. There won't be any further releases of it. It's a one-time only thing. It's been 3 years in the making, and it's had participation of all the original members, and it's really a labor of love. And so, I think if you are interested in bands of our era and you want to, one of the interesting things about it, aside from the fact that if you are a diehard fan, you're going to want this. But on the other hand, if you're a fan of any band's music from the 70s and you want to see what it was like, the fashions, the style of music, the style of recording, and you can track it all the way through these 30 discs. And all of the original studio albums are being remastered and re-released. And we're a band that's been really, actually, fairly poorly served by the record labels that we were with, Atlantic and Decca. So, they did some re-releasing, but not a concerted effort. So that's the really neat thing about it, is all of the original albums from that period will be re-released and remastered. So it's pretty cool. That's
exciting. I think that's what I was saying. Your music, to me, just gives you this journey of everything. I mean, you have everything in it. You've got blues, you've got hardcore rock. It's like everything is in there, and it's like it just doesn't get better than that. I get super excited because there was a lot of songs I didn't know about, and now I'm giddy. This is cool. We're going on a major road trip, and I can
say that.
This is the ultimate of road trip music, except for I know a speeding ticket is coming, 1 or 2 or 3. But they let you drive faster in the South, so that's good. But
that's true. That is true.
I wanted to answer one of our travel writers, Hillary Larson. Her and her husband are big music fans. In fact, they ended up going to England to this town of Deal because of some band was playing there, so they went on a road trip, or they flew over just for the music. She was asking.
That's funny you mention that. Yeah, because we do get we get that at our shows. We get groups of fans, even from different countries. They hook up through social media, and they'll plan a trip. I've known fans plan trips to Tokyo. We might have had a gig in Tokyo, and they get together. Like you might get some people from California, some people from Britain, maybe a French person, and they all get together and they meet up, in some foreign place.
That's cool.
It's amazing.
You should have your own
actually.
cruise. Yeah, you need your own cruise, the Wishbone Cruise. I love that. Yeah,
we did it. We've done it.
See?
We've done it twice. Yeah, it's very cool. I mean, we've done it. We have these fan conventions. I mean, we're all about that fan community thing. So we have these fan conventions that I call them fan conventions, but they're really sort of like just a gathering of like-minded souls. Really, it's the community, and we've done them in Florida, we've done them on cruise ships, we've done them in France, Germany, England, you name it. I mean, And that's part of the whole deal. It's like it's not exactly deadheads, but you get the idea. It's getting into that area of communication between the fans, and they're like our street team. They just keep the whole thing going for us and keep it exciting and interesting. And some of these folks are very interested in their own right, and they're musicians, they're musical, or they might have really interesting careers or whatever they do. And you meet people, and so it's an opportunity to get up a little bit more up close and friendly rather than just, a show where you fly in, you fly out. And, we enjoy it all. It's great.
Yeah, her and her husband Craig are excited because they're like, he wants to know about any albums that you're promoting, new LPs on this tour coming when you're coming to America with Eddie Murphy. I'm stuck at that now. But so I was telling them through social media here on Twitter that you've got the vintage years, but also Twin Barrels Burning is a re-release from 1982
right.
and Raw to the Bone from 1985. And so these are the first official re-releases, right? And this is something people can know about for your tour?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we are promoting those two albums, which are they're featured in the box set, but they're also featured as a separate release, and they will also have lots of unreleased songs on them, and also outtakes and that kind of thing. And so, yeah, we will feature, a little bit of this material on stage and also material from the Vintage Years box set that you mentioned. But obviously our most recent album as a band is called Blue Horizon, so we'll play a song or two from that. I mean, it's very hard when you've been in a band for so long you go into the vaults and you look at the back catalog, and it takes you a while to figure out how you're going to just showcase material from the different decades, But we manage it, and that's what the tour will consist of. That we like to mix it up. We play a couple of acoustic things in the middle of the set. We rock out. I think if we would have formed a band like Wishbone Ash was formed today, you'd probably call us a jam band, actually, because the music's eclectic like that. It's, there is space in there where we go off on our little musical journeys.
We like that.
And we're not afraid to pick up acoustic guitars or whatever you can do with two guitars, bass, and drums, we will do it. And that's basically our mandate, And
the two guitar thing, I mean, that was something that your band started, right? Wishbone Ash, that's your signature, like, that's it. We're two guitars just going for it.
It really is, yeah. That's a twin lead guitar sound. I mean, you had in America the Allman Brothers, and there have been other bands that have dabbled with it, but I don't think there's another band on the planet that's done as much with that concept. So, we use the two lead guitars really like a horn section in some respects. We're playing in harmony, we're playing lead lines. It's a very sweet melodic sound, but it can also rock out with guitars. I mean, as I just said, pretty much if there's anything you can do with two lead guitars playing together, playing off each other, jamming out, that's what we're doing. That's what we're all about. That's the signature sound of the band. If anyone has not, touched base with this band, they don't know anything about it, that's the signature sound of Wishbone Ash.
And it's badass. I love it. And it is. I mean, watching it, the energy, and that's what I was saying, what's so great about, the album's out now too, Raw to the Bone, having that re-released, is that you've got live recordings from the BBC in there, and it's just like, I love hearing live recordings because it puts you in there.
I do too.
It's the best, and it's like, this is the real deal, man. And the only better that you can get is watching it on YouTube. It depends on who filmed it, or going live and going to actually see you, which is exciting. So you're going to be, I just want everyone to know again, from the April 2018, you're going to be in North Carolina, Virginia, Georgia, Melbourne, Florida. I used to live there. I know exactly where you're playing.
Wow.
Yeah, years
awesome.
ago, yeah. New Orleans, of course, Tampa, Fort Worth, San Antonio, Austin, Phoenix, Vegas, you're going to Agora Hills, California, the Rose at Pasadena, the Coach House, San Juan Capistrano. Hillary Larson may see you there, hopefully, our travel writer. She'll be hopefully out there. And Oakland, and then Redwood City. That's
Fabulous.
a great
it's going to be
tour.
quite a nice tour. Great time of year to be traveling through the South, and
yeah,
we're really looking forward to it. It's going to be quite a road trip.
I want to tell everybody, too, that you've also got your musical memoirs out as well, Eyes Wide Open. That's a good name. True Tales of a Wishbone Ash Warrior, and it came out in 2015. And so I got to get that, because that, to me, I love to read, memoirs of musicians, especially of your career, because you've Eyes Wide Open, man. You've probably got, you could write a series.
I probably could, yeah. That was one of the... one of the hardest things I've ever done. I've done many albums and I've done so much in the music game, but to write a book, and everybody kept saying to me, you got to put because you go to dinner with people, you meet people, you tell them these little anecdotes, these stories, and they go, man, you got to write a book. So finally I did it. And it was the hardest thing about it was just consolidating everything and getting everything in order and actually deciding what stuff to include and what not to include, because there's just so much that you see, because it tracks the decades of the development of rock music, as well as being our story, my story, and my viewpoint on it all. And I was really happy to do that. It was such a gratifying experience, and it's been really well received, and it's still selling. So I think with the book as it goes on, and like yourself, I actually really enjoy reading people's biographies and their take on it all. I'm reading a book at the moment on Joni Mitchell. I'm a huge Joni Mitchell fan, and I'm reading the book Reckless Daughter about her, early years. And I'll read everything and anything about any musicians, contemporary or otherwise. I'm just fascinated, by that.
Well, it's a telling a piece of history of what's going on in the society around the world. To me, music tells the story. Music and art always have, because they're
exactly.
that's the honest language. When it's good, it's the honest one.
I think you're right, because I sometimes think to myself. I mean, I'm a real politics addict these days, and I sometimes think to myself. Who's not? At the moment, you can't avoid it. But
no.
If some of these politicians actually got out and traveled out of their state, one thing, but maybe went to a foreign country a bit more. Or I know a lot of them do, but there's an awful lot that don't. And if they could see attitudes from other countries and around the world and get a fresh perspective on things, it could be good, because ultimately I've traveled everywhere, and most people are really good, and everyone wants the same kind of thing: peace, love, and honesty. And I think that's what people really want. They want the basic things. They want a quality of life, and I think it would be great. There's so much that musicians see, because you're not traveling on the surface. You really dig in. You get to meet people in their own environment,
And their emotions.
And I don't think when politicians travel that they see the real people of the country they traveled to.
They close their eyes when they kiss the baby.
Yeah, they really talk with the upper politicians and governmental images. I can't even call them people sometimes. So they're just talking to themselves, like in a mirror. In
a way, yeah.
We're luckier than those schmucks below us.
Well, when you can engage with regular people, on any level, I mean, it's good just to check in with all stratas of life, and
right.
I think musicians do that. You might find yourself at a truck stop one day, you might find yourself in some fancy 5-star hotel the next night.
Yeah.
You might find yourself, and that's what I love about it. I make, one minute we can be playing a funky little club somewhere, the next minute we can be playing on a big festival in front of 50,000 people, and that's the interesting side of it all, the diversity of it all,
I think so too. I mean, and I love that you're doing all size, venues.
We do.
Yeah, just looking at where you're playing and where you're performing and going to places like Poland and, France. I mean, this nice big, blend of different places and different venues. Is there any place that you have not played that you want to play? Any specific venue in the world?
Well, that's a really interesting question. I mean, to be a touring band like we are, you really have to do all kinds of venues, and we actually enjoy it. It's very stimulating, and we've toured, you name it, Africa. We've toured India 3 times. We've We've played obviously Europe and the United States a lot, Japan, Asia. I've never been to China though, and that's a place that it's such a vast thing, and I've never actually toured or played a show in China. So perhaps that would be one of the places that I would like to go and have a look around and just get an impression of, because there's obviously so much growth going on there. It's such an ancient culture. The closest I've got to that perhaps is Japan, but if you talk to Japanese people, they say it's nothing like China. So like to see that.
Yeah. And is there any specific venue that you say is your favorite? I mean, does it make a difference to you if it's a large venue with 50,000 versus an intimate pub?
No, it doesn't make. Well, it is obviously very different. The experience of playing a festival is mind-blowing. You walk onto a stage and there's thousands of people there, and the sound is huge. That it just entails a completely different approach than, say, perhaps playing a little club. One of my goals in life when I was really just starting out was to play the famous Marquee Club in London. I thought if I ever got to the Marquee Club, I would have made it, as a musician. And then, literally 18 months later, I was playing Madison Square Garden, and it's, they each have their challenges. They really do. I mean, we played. We came to America, and one of the first shows in New York we did was Carnegie Hall. Well, who doesn't want to play Carnegie Hall if you're a musician? And I've just been so fortunate. We played the Fillmore West, the Fillmore East, and we played on shows with so many other fantastic bands, bands that I looked up to, bands that I admired. So, it's very hard to say what would I prefer. I think that I just enjoy all of it. It's a challenge. And sometimes, playing in front of a show with just a couple of hundred people, with them all right there in front of your face, in front of your eyes, that's almost harder in some respects than cruising on a big stage,
Yeah, because it's like no one can see me.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
There is a kind of a, the gestures that you make on a big stage, they're more theatrical. It's more, but up close and personal can be quite daunting,
Yeah, I know the difference in that where something like, okay, they're seeing every little move you make. What happens if I have to have an emergency adjustment to garments or something? You know what I mean?
All of that stuff.
Everything happens with that. Do you guys have
a
ritual before you go on stage?
Good question. Typically maybe have a glass of wine or something, but just to kind of get in the zone. But no, a lot of people do like vocal exercises, guitar exercises. I'm not one of those, actually. I quite like the shock of it. I love I love being in a different frame of mind and just suddenly hitting the stage. I don't like to think about it too much before I go on. A lot of people like to get really in the zone and get prepared. I quite like the excitement of just. I almost don't want to see the stage before I go on. I almost don't want to see the venue. I love that feeling of like, how am I going to adapt to this? But of course, we do sound checks, so we get a little bit familiar with it. But I actually like the kind of mystery of it all.
Do you ever wake up and not know where you are? Like forget,
totally.
Get on stage and suddenly what town am I in?
Totally, yeah, absolutely. I even get back off a tour and wake up in the middle of the night and think, am I in a hotel room? It's like,
isn't that weird?
There is sometimes some confusion there, where you, and we all find this in the band. We'll say, where were we yesterday? We'll be at breakfast and we'll go, and none of us can actually remember, and that's really weird. You think, oh, surely, you do eventually get to it, but there's a kind of there's a fuzzy, comfortably numb feeling is the way I would describe about touring. You get into this kind of like, that, for example, every evening there's going to be a show. So you get you get wound up for that. You get excited about that. But that's the only real constant in the day because you're going to be in a different town, a different city, different types of people, different attitudes, different food. And, so you get that. I call it being comfortably numb, like the Pink Floyd song, and I love that. I actually really, and I love not knowing what day of the week it is. That's touring for me. It's like someone will say, hey, it's the weekend today. I'm like, really? I had no idea.
What's the difference? I know,
Yeah.
right? Nancy and I've done 2 tours that were like 2 to 3 year nonstop tours. One was in South Africa, one was here in this country.
Really?
And
Wow.
it's weird. We got into this, because we found ourselves with what we do going back to the same places, like just going in circles, which we're good at.
Sure.
And taking our clothes off and listening to music, right? But
Yep, as you do.
But
Part of the course, yeah.
but it's all part of it, yeah. But it's what's really odd is we'd have certain like hotels or friends' places that you sleep in, and you'd wake up right pre-dawn, and you'll go, I know the smell of this place, I know the bed, I know the sounds, I know the bird sound,
but you don't
and you
know
have
the
no
name.
clue where you are, and then you go, this bed is bigger than normal. Uh-oh.
Yeah, right.
Just kidding, but
I know exactly what you mean. To me, I might not know the day of the week, but I might know that there's a little coffee shop on the corner where they sell the best coffee. Or I might know that I might just be intrigued to see if that same lady is working the convenience store there that was there last year, or behind a bar, or that person that used to insult me, a year ago, and has been doing it for the last 5 years, where I come around that circuit. And I love that about touring. Those little characters that you meet on the road, and as you say, the same hotel room that you maybe stayed in 5 years ago, and you walk in there and you go, oh my God, I stayed in this room before.
I know, right?
It's so funny.
Intriguing, I'm so intrigued that you toured South Africa, because we did that a couple of years ago and we had the best time. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a great.
I love to
country.
hear that. We lived there. Nancy had a magazine over there, and then it was time for us to come back home and make sure we kept our passports. But I was raised there for most of my teenage life, and it's an amazing country with amazing music, and I wish the rest of the world could hear the music that comes out of there and still comes out. Like I know Johnny Clegg, unfortunately, in his last tour, but there's
right.
music there. It's all encompassing to me.
It's incredible. Yeah, we played some venues there, and there would be like cleaning staff backstage, and we'd be like packing our instruments away, and they put down their brooms, and they'd all get into a circle and start singing their music for us, and we were like blown away, And same thing happened in Brazil, where we would have pretty big touring entourage. We'd be touring around the country, and of course, everyone in Brazil is a musician, and you go to a restaurant, and people are. I never saw this. I saw this in Ireland, actually, but in Brazil, they'll sing to each other across the table. Like if a band's playing in the corner or a guitarist, the whole restaurant ends up singing along and singing that song to each other.
Wow.
I found it absolutely charming, because maybe it was like that in this country back in the day, but we've kind of forgotten that a little bit. It's like when I was a child, I remember in my neighborhood, all the guys and some of the ladies would whistle songs.
Yeah.
You rarely hear people like whistling a tune these days, and so, in Brazil, I found that the same thing, music everywhere, and sports too. But and I love the naivety that it's not naive. It's a freedom that they have, and like you mentioned in South Africa, the townships and everyone. They're not embarrassed to actually stand and sing you a song or play something.
It's part of the culture. It's part
really
of it's part of a language, and their culture, and it's magical. I mean, we lived in Kenya too, and
they don't have the boundaries.
That's right. That's right. Well, because
it
it hasn't been defined to them as a commercial thing. I mean, my son, he's a drummer, and he went to live in Ghana for a while, and he started drumming there, and it's such a sort of privilege to be a drummer in Ghanaian society, because they're the people that pass on the stories through the decades and the ages. And before you can become a drummer there, you have to chop the tree down, hollow it out, and then you have to kill the animal, skin it, and you really learn what it is to actually be privileged to even make your own drum first, and then you're taught that language of the drums. And I think we're just so used to music being a commercialized entity. We talk about the music business, But in other cultures where they don't have those, it hasn't evolved to that state. Or I say evolved, they still got they're closer in touch with what music actually really is, which is a form of communication between human beings.
It's true, and the respect for the instrument, like you were saying, is such a crucial piece of it. In Mexico, and I can't remember what city this is, and I don't want to say it wrong and send people the wrong place, but there's a city and actually one street known for making guitars, and some of the guitars take 100 years to make and pass down from generation to generation in the carving, the stretching and treating of the wood, and it is. I watched this documentary and I don't know if it was San Miguel, it could be, and this passing down of the family of these guitars, and and they could cost thousands of this, and it's just. When you see that the making of instruments, to me, is really fascinating, and the
it is,
etymology,
the reverence, the reverence they have towards it all, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's something to me too that goes from the instrument to the player, the performer, the creator, and then to how we take it as an audience. And when everything is becoming so mass manufactured, I think it's so important. Like what you're doing with the vintage years and making this limited edition, I think it brings back, and it brings that quality of what it is and the beauty of something being really special and magical. So I really applaud you for doing that, because we're in a world now everything is just mass produced. And
well, we when we started recording, there was only 8-track recording, and then it went to 16-track, then 24-track, then digital. And so, this vintage box set, it's really a handcrafted thing where, there are very few embellishments. I mean, when we recorded, what you heard was what you got, just people doing really what we were just talking about, communicating with their instruments. And the early days of rock music, per se, not rock and roll, but I guess the 70s, 1969, 1970 would be the beginning of rock, and we came to America, we started playing in bigger rooms and municipal auditoriums, and it was interesting to be on that wave of British musicians that were coming to America and doing that thing, and that's what this box set kind of exemplifies,
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I know you're a fan of Albert King, and man, he's the man. I love that.
I love so much. I love so many different types of music, but when it comes down to blues guitar and electric blues, Albert King was the man for me. And I play a similar guitar to the one he used, the Gibson Flying V, and he was just he just really did it for me. Fantastic.
Man, I'm so excited about you coming to America. I'm not here promoting Eddie Murphy, but it's such a pleasure having you on the show and talking travel and all your stories, and just the music is just amazing. We're going to play Blowin' Free because, I don't know, now I'm going to run through the fields here in Tucson in the desert.
That's a good road song. That's a really good road song. Yeah.
And I feel like that's what people got to feel, that freedom, and that's what you bring to us as your music.
Well,
and this is live at Hammersmith on BBC Local Radio, and it's on Raw to the Bone, and you can get it. Go to wishboneash.com, everyone. But before you go, Andy, what is your champagne toast? What are you happy about?
I saw the champagne toast. Well, I think that believe it or not, I'm a rocker, but I'm a grandfather. So I think my champagne toast would be to my 2 darling granddaughters, Sophie and Ella, and to toast them and their future lives. I mean, life could be every bit as of an adventure that's been for me, and that they could perhaps have the same outlook as you two ladies obviously have, and a sense of wonder about the world. So I would toast my granddaughters. How's that?
Cool. We toast to them too.
Yeah.
I toast to this generation that's here now, the younger generation, because we got to make it good for them. They got to have adventures and happiness, and I just always think, I don't want them to be in a concrete jungle with no clean air and dirty water and no wildlife and nature and mass-produced music. They need good wine. They need clear skies and good music, so they can run free.
You're right.
They need some fun.
To be free.
They must run barefoot and be okay to do it.
Yes, they must be. They must be able to do that. And so far, so good. My granddaughters, they're pretty free, I got to say. I think they're free spirits at heart. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Andy. Such a pleasure. Happy, safe travels. Enjoy. And everybody, go get the music. Go see them on tour wherever you are, because I know we have listeners from all over the world. So wishboneash.com. So if you're in Europe and Poland and France, you can go see them. And then also here in the States and then Canada this year. So a lot of chances to go and see them and celebrate 50 years. So toast to you for that, too.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Great pleasure talking with you. Thank you. Thank you both.
Take care. Take care.
Take care.
Here it is,
Bye.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Blowing free.